So, have you ever noticed how, some people can just completely reject an invitation you've extended, and yet somehow you walk away from that interaction feeling totally respected?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you actually feel better about your relationship with them after they told you no.
Right, which sounds so counterintuitive.
It really does. But then, on the flip side, someone else can give you what is, technically a compliment, and it still feels like this subtle jab. You're just left standing there thinking, wait, did they just insult me?
Yeah, it's an incredibly common experience. And honestly, it reveals something fundamental about how our brains process information during conversations.
Which is wild because we just brush past it all the time.
We really do. But that lingering feeling of either being uplifted or, subtly diminished, it rarely has anything to do with the actual literal words being spoken.
Right.
The dictionary definition of the words is almost secondary to the underlying psychological currents of the whole interaction.
And that is exactly what we are getting into today. So, welcome to today's deep dive, where our mission is to unpack what our sources call the secret of friendly communication.
It's a great topic.
It is. We're analyzing some heavy-hitting research on the psychology of human interaction today, and basically the core phenomenon we are exploring is how we constantly, and I mean almost entirely by accident, turn everyday conversations into absolute battlefields.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Right. Just simply by focusing obsessively on the what of our message while completely ignoring the how.
Which is the root of so much unnecessary friction in our lives. We put all this immense cognitive energy into curating our facts.
Making sure we're right.
Exactly. Ensuring our logic is airtight and that we are technically right. But we forget that the person on the receiving end is processing the delivery method long before they ever begin to parse those facts.
So communication is essentially a delivery system. I was thinking about it like this. Think of it like you have the most valuable package in the entire world.
Okay, I like this.
Let's say it's a box containing pure logic, total factual accuracy, the absolute undeniable truth of a situation.
The holy grail of an argument.
Exactly. But if you take that incredibly valuable package and you just throw it straight through someone's living room window, they aren't going to care about what is inside the box.
No, not at all.
They aren't going to carefully unwrap it and say, oh, wow, look at this pristine logic, how helpful.
They're going to be calling the police.
Right. No, they're going to be absolutely furious about the shattered glass covering their carpet.
That analogy perfectly captures the mechanics of what happens in the brain during these accidental battlefields. It really does.
Because the delivery ruins the gift.
Exactly. When we look at the psychology of communication, we have to understand why those perfectly logical, fact-based statements shatter the peace. And it really just comes down to evolutionary biology.
Biology.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, it's hardwired into us. Our sources highlight this critical mechanism, basically. People will entirely block out even the most flawlessly constructed, logically sound arguments if they feel their identity or their status is under attack.
Okay, wait, so the broken glass in the living room, that is basically their triggered ego. It's their sense of safety just evaporating.
That's exactly it. When you deliver a blunt, unvarnished critique, even if it's 100% accurate, you aren't speaking to their prefrontal cortex.
I'm just the logical part, right?
Right, the logical, rational part of the brain. Instead, you're basically throwing a brick directly at their amygdala, which is the brain's threat detection center.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and when the amygdala senses an attack on the ego or social standing, it floods the body with cortisol and adrenaline.
It triggers the whole fight or flight thing.
A literal fight or flight response.
Mm.
The prefrontal cortex practically shuts down. So physiologically, they are no longer capable of processing your brilliant logic.
Because they're just trying to survive the interaction.
Precisely. Their entire cognitive focus shifts to self-defense. But conversely, when people feel genuinely seen, understood, and validated, that threat response is suppressed.
And they actually listen.
Yes, they become incredibly receptive to even the harshest feedback.
Okay, I hear that, but I really have to push back here for a second.
Sure, go for it.
Because when I read that in the source material, my immediate thought was about the sheer cognitive load this puts on us.
Well, it is a lot to juggle.
Right. If we have to constantly tiptoe around everyone's fragile egos and manage their cortisol levels just to deliver a basic fact, doesn't mindful communication just turn into being, well, incredibly passive?
I can see why you think that.
Like, are we supposed to just coddle everyone and pretend things are fine when they aren't, just to avoid breaking any glass?
It's a completely fair challenge, and it definitely sounds exhausting at first glance, but the source material draws a very hard line here. This is absolutely not about passivity. Friendly communication isn't about ignoring reality or suppressing the truth or coddling. It is about deliberately choosing tactical empathy over blunt force.
Tactical empathy. I like that phrase.
It's a great term. Passivity is avoiding the door and taking the package home. What we are talking about here is walking up to the porch, ringing the doorbell, and handing the package over intact.
Okay, so if I'm not changing the actual facts, if I'm still delivering the bad news, what does tactical empathy actually look like in that moment, like practically speaking?
It's the intentional use of environment-altering behaviors.
Which means what exactly?
It means focusing heavily on how you speak. It's taking a deliberate pause or a deep breath before responding, which lets the emotional weight of a moment settle.
So literally just slowing down.
Yes, and it's softening the cadence of your voice, modulating your tone so it doesn't sound aggressive. You are addressing the issue head-on, but you are doing it in a way that actively preserves the other person's dignity.
You're essentially de-risking their vulnerability.
I love how you phrased that. Yes, exactly.
I see. So it's not that I'm softening the truth, I'm softening the environment so the truth can actually be heard.
Precisely.
Oh.
Because if your goal is just to vent your frustration, go ahead and throw the package through the window.
Right, but nothing gets fixed.
Right. But if your goal is to actually have them open the box and use what's inside, you have to manage their threat response first. Empathy is simply the tool that ensures the package gets opened.
Okay, so if passivity is abandoning the package, let's look at what handing it over successfully actually looks like in practice.
Let's do it.
Because it's easy to say, be empathetic in theory, but when you're in a high-stress environment, things get messy really fast. Let's move into our first case study from the sources, the workplace.
Ah, yes. The workplace is the perfect laboratory to test this.
Because everyone's stressed.
Totally. Time is usually short. The pressure to be efficient is incredibly high. And people's professional identities, their livelihoods, are deeply entangled with their egos.
Right. Okay, so imagine you're managing a junior team member. We'll call her Sarah.
Okay, Sarah.
And Sarah completely misses a critical project deadline. Now, the reality behind the scenes, which you might not fully see, is that she is completely overwhelmed. She is drowning in tasks, just trying to keep her head above water.
A very common scenario.
Yeah, but all you know as the manager is that the deadline was missed and the client is waiting.
Right.
Now, the instinctual blunt force approach, which in a lot of corporate cultures is just praised as direct feedback, right?
Yeah, being a straight shooter.
Exactly. The instinct is to walk up to her desk and say, Sarah, you missed the deadline and now the whole project is delayed. This can't happen again.
Okay, let's analyze the anatomy of that statement. Because technically it is flawless.
It is.
It is 100% factually accurate. Sarah did miss the deadline. The project is delayed. It cannot happen again. The logic is pristine.
The package is perfectly packed, secured with tape, ready to go.
But look at the devastation it causes upon delivery.
It's brutal.
It really is. That phrasing acts as a direct, acute threat to Sarah's professional survival. By leading with the word you missed and following it with the whole project is delayed, you are neurologically cornering her.
You're shining a spotlight right on her failure.
Right. You aren't just stating a fact. You are inadvertently telling her she is a failure and a liability to the tribe.
Which triggers that amygdala hijack we were just talking about.
Exactly. Her cortisol spikes immediately. And what happens next? She is practically guaranteed to either completely shut down in shame, which destroys her future productivity, or
and she fights back.
Yes. She's going to activate her fight response to protect her ego. She'll start firing back excuses, blaming other departments, complaining about the software, maybe pointing fingers at you for not giving her enough resources.
Because her brain is telling her that she has to deflect the blame to survive.
Precisely.
And the crazy thing is, as the manager, by being blunt, I haven't actually solved the problem at all.
No, you've made it worse.
I've just assigned blame. The deadline is still missed, and now I have a defensive, resentful employee who is less likely to succeed tomorrow.
Which brings us to the alternative approach outlined in the research.
Yeah.
The big question is, how do we deliver the same factual feedback that the deadline was blown without triggering that defensive cascade?
Okay, so here is the empathetic response the source suggests, and pay attention to the wording here.
Okay.
It goes like this. Sarah, I noticed we missed the deadline on the project. I know you've been carrying a massive workload lately. Let's look at where the bottleneck is so we can make this easier for you next time.
The psychological engineering in that sentence is just brilliant.
It really is. Let's break down exactly why it works on a neurobiological level. First, notice the shift from you missed to we missed.
That is a tiny word change, but it feels massive.
It is massive. That pronoun shift completely alters the framing from isolation to collaboration.
Right.
It signals to her brain, hey, you are not being exiled from the tribe, we are in this together. It immediately de-escalates the existential threat.
It takes her right off the firing line.
Exactly. And then you have the deliberate pause, softening your tone and acknowledging her massive workload.
You are validating her reality before you demand she fix yours.
Yes. It tells her she is seen and understood. And finally, the phrase, let's look at where the bottleneck is.
I love that part because you are externalizing the problem.
Right.
You aren't saying she's the bottleneck. You are saying there is a bottleneck out there in the process and you want to hunt it down together.
Precisely. And notice what the manager didn't do. They didn't lie.
Yeah.
They didn't pretend the deadline wasn't missed. The failure is still fully on the table. But by shifting the focus to a systemic bottleneck, the manager invites Sarah to become a partner in solving the problem rather than the target of the problem.
It's just so much more effective.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone tells me I'm the reason a project failed, I want to update my resume and quit.
Right. Me too.
But if someone says, wow, you have a lot on your plate, how do we fix this bottleneck together? I'm rolling up my sleeves.
You feel supported.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm actually motivated to fix it because my identity isn't being crushed.
Because you've preserved her self-esteem, you delivered the heavy package without shattering the window, and honestly, in the long run, that is what actually builds a high-performing team.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the workplace, where we tend to be at least somewhat guarded and aware of professional consequences. But I think an even bigger trap, and honestly where a lot of us fail the absolute hardest, is what happens when we clock out.
Oh, for sure.
We leave the office, we drop our guard, and we often become carelessly blunt in our personal lives.
We really do.
We accidentally wound the friends and family we love the most, simply because we equate being unfiltered with being authentic.
It's a very common paradox.
Yeah.
The comfort of intimacy strips away our tactical empathy.
Yes, that's exactly it.
We assume our loved ones know we care about them, so we don't feel the need to carefully package our words anymore. But the reality is, the human ego is just as fragile at home as it is in the boardroom.
Maybe even more so.
Honestly, yes. In fact, rejection from a loved one often triggers an even stronger neurological threat response because our tribal belonging is so deeply tied to them.
That perfectly sets up the social case study from our sources. Let's talk about the art of the graceful no.
Oh, this is a tough one for a lot of people.
It is. Okay, so here's the scenario. A close friend invites you to a weekend gathering at their house, but you are completely fundamentally exhausted.
We've all been there.
You've had a brutal week, your social battery is heavily in the negative, and you desperately need a quiet weekend alone just to function.
Right.
Now, the default, blunt response, the unfiltered honesty approach, would be to text back something like, I can't make it this weekend, I'm just too tired and need to stay home.
And again, let's recognize the facts here. That statement is entirely honest.
Completely.
It is a highly accurate representation of your physical state.
But honesty without tact can be brutal, because when I read that text, if I'm the friend receiving it, it feels terrible.
Right, because of the medium. Texting strips away all vocal tone, it strips away facial expressions and body language.
Which we rely on so much.
So much. It creates a massive emotional vacuum. And human psychology dictates that when there is an emotional vacuum, our brains, which have a built-in negativity bias, will automatically fill that void with anxiety and insecurity.
So as the friend reading that text, I don't feel your exhaustion, I just see that you don't want to come.
Exactly. From their perspective, the psychological translation of "I'm too tired to come" is often interpreted as "my desire to sit in an empty room and do absolutely nothing is vastly stronger than my desire to see you."
Ouch. Yeah, that hurts.
To their amygdala, that feels like a micro-rejection. It feels like a subtle downgrade in their social value to you. You aren't attacking them directly, but you are failing to provide reassurance, which leaves their insecurities to just run wild.
Which brings us to the empathetic approach. The source provides a much more thoughtful alternative to that text message. And honestly, when I read this, I enthusiastically thought of it as a social sandwich.
A social sandwich, I love that.
Right. So the text goes like this: I love spending time with you, and your gatherings are always so much fun. Honestly, my battery is completely drained from this week. Can we grab a quiet coffee together next Tuesday instead?
Sure, you can colloquially call it the social sandwich, but if we look under the hood neurologically, What you actually doing there is constructing a preemptive validation loop.
A validation loop.
Yes, it's highly structured identity preservation.
Okay, break that down for me. How does the sandwich structure actually disarm the brain?
Let's look at the first layer. I love spending time with you. And your gatherings are always fun. You are initiating the interaction by explicitly confirming their high status in your life.
Right.
You are flooding their brain with social validation up front, which keeps the amygdala completely calm. You are padding the environment before you drop the weight.
Putting a pillow down in front of the window.
Yes, exactly. Then you introduce the boundary. My battery is completely drained. Notice the cognitive framing here.
Oh, I see it.
You make the limitation entirely about your internal state, your lack of energy, rather than anything lacking in their event. You've completely removed any implication of social rejection.
That's huge. But the real kicker for me is that final part, the bottom layer of the sandwich. Can we grab a quiet coffee next Tuesday instead?
That is the most critical element.
Why is that so important?
By offering a specific alternative, a specific day, and a specific activity, you are providing undeniable, concrete proof that you still highly value the relationship.
You're not just flaking.
Right. You aren't just pushing them away, you are pulling them into a different time frame. It transforms the entire interaction from a rejection into a simple rescheduling.
It says, I can't do this loud, exhausting thing right now, but I still fundamentally want you in my life.
Exactly.
And it takes maybe 10 extra seconds to type out that second text message instead of the blunt one. But the difference in how that friend is going to feel reading it, the difference in the health of that friendship over time is just night and day.
It is the difference between chipping away at the foundation of trust versus actively reinforcing it.
Which really makes you zoom out and look at the bigger picture here. What is the ultimate goal of rewiring our speech patterns in this way?
It's a great question to ask.
I mean, why should you, the listener, put in all this extra cognitive effort just to decline a party invitation or point out a missed deadline to a junior employee?
Well, if we synthesize everything we've explored today and connect it back to the core thesis of this deep dive, it reveals a golden rule of human communication.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's a psychological filter that you can apply to literally every interaction you have moving forward. The next time you're about to speak, especially if emotions are running high, if you feel defensive or if you feel that desperate urge to be right, you must take that breath, pause, and ask yourself one defining question.
Which is?
Am I trying to win this moment or am I trying to build this relationship?
Wow, am I trying to win this moment or build this relationship? That is a profound distinction.
It really changes everything.
Because winning the moment is entirely ego-driven, isn't it?
It is.
It's about asserting your reality over theirs. I am right about this deadline, you are wrong. I am tired. I am not going to your party. And sure, it feels incredibly satisfying for about 3 seconds.
Right. It provides a fleeting neurochemical hit of superiority and control, but it is always a Pyrrhic victory.
Because of the fallout.
Exactly. Winning an argument or proving you are factually right at the cost of damaging the underlying relationship is always ultimately a loss.
That makes so much sense.
Because tomorrow, you still have to manage Sarah. Tomorrow, you still want to have that friend in your life to lean on. If you win the moment by shattering their window, you are the one who has to walk barefoot through the glass the next day.
Oh, man, that is such a vivid way to conceptualize it, walking barefoot through the glass.
It's painful and it's avoidable.
So, to distill all this for you listening right now, the key takeaways from our sources are incredibly clear. You have to consciously focus on the how just as much, if not more, than the what.
The delivery is everything.
It is. The delivery system dictates whether the package is received at all. So always validate the other person first to bypass their threat response. Use soft, collaborative language like shifting from you to we to de-risk vulnerability.
Pay attention to your tone, your pacing, take those deep breaths.
Yes, all of that. And above all, always remember there is a fragile human ego on the other side of your words, no matter how tough they might appear on the outside.
That's the real secret. And, knowledge of human psychology is only valuable when it is applied in the real world.
Right. It's not just theory.
Exactly. This isn't just academic theory. It is a highly practical, life-altering skill set that you can start using in your very next conversation.
I love that.
So I want to leave you with a final challenge to mull over as you go about your day.
Let's do it.
The next time you feel a sudden, sharp spike of annoyance, like when someone drops the ball or crosses a boundary, and you feel that burning urge to prove your point by dropping a blunt, unvarnished fact on them, pause.
Just stop for a second.
Hold the package for 1 second and ask yourself, what if the most powerful, influential thing you can do in that exact moment isn't to speak your truth at all? What if the most effective way to communicate is to suppress your own ego, look at the person in front of you, and ask a single genuine question about how they're feeling?